the judgment where the Attorney General has claimed a victory on behalf of the state. More to follow up on that later on this morning. We're staying with financial information, but in a more proactive and positive way. Coming up this time with our friends from the Unit Trust Corporation. Our guests Simone Downer, Investment Center Manager, and we welcome for the first time Mr. Neil Phillips, who is a Marketing Officer. Good morning, and thanks for joining us this morning. Neil, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Simone, we're talking this morning about teenagers and how parents, or what instruments we have to start them on the path to investment and understanding the importance of investment, because the earlier you start, as we've always said, the better for you in the long run, because you know we can't wait till you're down the road.
Sure.
It's not as productive.
Correct.
Right. So let's talk about how early is early in terms of teenagers.
We believe that as early as a child can reason and think. And most parents have that sense because everybody has a piggy bank. Everybody. And that's parents' way of trying to introduce their children to the early stages, to the most simplistic form of savings, and to piggyback onto that, onto investing. Children as young as 4, 5, 6 should be inculcated. The values of savings, investing should be taught to children at that age, because that is the responsibility of parents these days.
But is it, you know, when you think of mental, intellectual development, can a child who doesn't have abstract thinking formally developed until you reach 16, 17 really understand the difference between saving and putting a new paradigm called investment in there now? You think children can understand that at that age?
Paul, you know, if you're a parent, a guardian, I'm sure you may have nieces and nephews. The amazing thing is that children these days are not the children of 10, 20 years ago. It is amazing to me that my 3-year-old nephew can pick up an iPad and start to download games onto this iPad. Their cognitive senses are so in tuned and fine-tuned that, yes, very simply put, they can understand that we put aside some for today, for the rainy day. We put aside stuff to buy that cell phone that you want, the sneakers that you want, the clothes. You just have to put it in line with things that they understand, and bet your bottom dollar those children will grasp the concepts easily.
Right. Let's bring Neil into the conversation. Neil, what measures can we put in place to ensure that our teenagers, even with families that have challenges, because not everybody has the same resources to work with, start, and I think this is the important message that people need to get, that you don't have to be wealthy or have extravagant wealth or inherit wealth to start saving and investing.
Correct. Measures you can put in place, you could start off maybe even by, let's say, you can open an account. That's actually the first thing we want to encourage you to do. Open an account, carry a child down to the Unit Trust Corporation, open an account there. We have
with them, so make them involved, have them involved from the very start.
Yes, exactly. We have a wide range of mutual funds available to people of all walks of life. This would include children, and we want to really encourage people to start. We have 2 funds to be specific. We have the Children's Investment Starter Plan, as well as
Children's Investor Starter Plan.
Yes, and we also have the Student Investment and Protection Plan, which are very good long-term investments for the child. You make money for these through growth and income, so a combination of the two. So basically, when you put money into unit trust, you are purchasing units. So the appreciation in the value of units will be growth, and then semi-annual dividends would be income. So they have a lot of time and they have a lot of scope to make a lot of money with these 2 funds.
So and the kids have to come in, of course, with the parents, because they're minors.
Sure. But they
can make deposits into the accounts on their own moving forward, I guess under the supervision of the parent and the agent at the UTC.
Yes, this is something that actually I would recommend as well. Get the children involved. Let them get into the habit of depositing money every week, every month. Get them into the habit. We believe also that it starts at home. You know, you being the parent or guardian, you need to set a good example for the child. Let them see you being a good saver. Let them see you being a good investor. So that then, although we know teens could tend to be rebellious at times, they generally still take pattern from the parents. So when they see you with these good habits, then they would also hopefully carry these good habits into their adulthood.
Simone, as an added advantage to this, how important is this when the child reaches 25 or 26 and you want to buy a car or something, and you go to the bank or the financial institution and they see, well, this child has been saving since they're 11 years old. I guess that's an also added value, because the banker knows, well, this person has had quite an extensive history from young with saving/investment.
Definitely, Paul, because two things can happen there. One, it shows the banker that you are financially prudent, that you have the ability to save, that your mindset is in that direction. And it also, over the years of saving this little nest egg that the young adult would have been doing, they in turn will now have security that they can put towards the loan. Because our instruments, our first unit scheme, even our second unit scheme, can be used as a security item at the financial institutions. So it's a twofold thing there. And this really is something that we would encourage teenagers to do. Parents need to take that responsibility from as early as they possibly can to get their teenagers on this road. Show them the necessity for this. If the financial collapse that we had the other day taught us anything, it teaches us that prudent financial habits must be put into place from as young and as early as possible. And teenagers need to be placed on budgets. It doesn't matter, as young as they are. You need to sit with them. You need to work out a budget for them. You need to teach them the importance of allocation, income versus expenses, wants versus needs. You have to be tough, because we all know, parents, guardians, all of us. Absolutely. It is training, because, and you yourself as a parent have to be tough, because when you first start off, you give them the allowance, say this $100 lasts in you for the month, and by day 2 they come back.
We know. And it's finished in 5 days.
That's it. And you have to be tough enough to say, no, that money was to last you for the month. You need to be able to budget, to keep within your budget, your expenses and your income.
I'm glad you brought up that aspect of consequence. And Neil, let's talk about that. And when you start these accounts with the kids and you're going down the road, how often should the parents come in with the kids to the UTC to kind of go over where we've reached in terms of the goals we've set, and if we're falling off the wagon, what we need to do to get back on, because discipline takes a while. The tree doesn't straight up overnight.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say as often as possible, Paul. I mean, weekly, I would say.
Weekly?
Yeah, I would say
as much as weekly?
Yeah, I would say weekly. I mean, you want
to make tight rain, boy.
Yeah, we want to make sure that the children's financial futures are secure. So we need to make sure that they obviously, first of all, to say you would know the child. So I would say weekly. You give them an allowance for a week. Maybe you give them $100, $20 a day, where they would use to buy lunch, for transportation as well. And maybe you can even give them a short-term goal in terms of, maybe they might want the new football for the World Cup, the Brazuca. Let them save out of their allowance.
So you start setting goals, and they can
let them
achieve the goals.
Set short-term goals and let them save towards that and get them in the habit.
I'm glad you mentioned goals also. Let's talk about sitting with the kids and planning. Well, you're 11 or 12 now, but at 17, 18, you want to go into university. You may want to go abroad, and we can start working and investing and saving toward that. You want to have a car when you're 25, 26, and the importance of timelining.
Critical.
And when you start to work, how these instruments or how your investments are going to change. So the child has a sense that you're moving forward, as you said, simply put, age appropriate. That these are things you can accomplish because you're understanding what the timelines and the goals are.
Absolutely. It's important, whether it's an adult or a child or a teenager, to set goals, short-term, medium-term, long-term. Of course, age-appropriate, as you have indicated, in the language that they can understand. But that is critical for them to understand that we have savings, we have investments, savings short-term, investments long-term.
And that's important, isn't it?
That's important.
To differentiate between savings and investments.
It is. It is. And they can understand. You see, I think long ago we thought that having financial discussions with our young children or teenagers was taboo. It was a subject we didn't bring up with them. That's correct. But not anymore. You need to teach your children that the things that they are enjoying at this aspect of their life, their shelter, their home.
It didn't fall out of the sky.
That's correct. Yeah. Their cars, their vacations are things that their parents have sat, planned, saved, and invested for their education. Critical for them to understand these things. And as Neil said, it's important to take them into the corporation. As he said, depending on your children, you may need to take them weekly. You could take them monthly.
By the time they're 18, 19, they're pretty financially savvy.
Yes. Definitely.
You know?
By then, they can literally take over their accounts to themselves, and that's the beauty of the CISP and the SIPP. That at 18, if the children so desire and the parents, these accounts can be handed over to the children for them to start to invest in the instruments that they feel comfortable with.
How important is that timing, Neil, where at, I guess, around 16, 17, 18, when they start to develop the concrete thinking, they're more abstract, they can now start to look, well, I want to start to look at X type of stock versus Y type of stock, because in pretty short time they're going to start making their own money.
Yes.
And they need to have that information or start thinking about those things at those later stages, the later teens.
Right. I would say we like to advise people that you invest based on your age, really and truly, because it really is time-based. As you know, you have a particular amount of checks until retirement, so you effectively earn money up to a particular age in most cases. So we advise you to invest short-term investment. You invest basically long-term investment, you invest based on your age. If I am 20 years old, I would invest 20%, in short-term investments, and the 80% would go into a longer-term investment. And as you get older, because you would need more liquid cash
and access to the,
yes,
to the fund.
it would change. So you go from 30, you go 30% long-term, and then 70% shorter-term, and then it just graduates from there. So we would encourage children to invest that way, but it's always important to have short-term, your short-term savings, your medium-term, and your long-term savings. So it's good to have a balance.
Let's go through, Simone, 3 scenarios in terms of instruments available at the UTC. Let's say 11 to 13, 13 to 16, and then 16 upward, and the types of instruments that are available at those stages.
Okay, as we discussed earlier, the earlier time band, and this can go from 0 to 18, the CISP and the SIPP, which are instruments which are tied to the growth and income fund. So we have your capital appreciating, you're getting income, and your capital growth. These are the accounts, because the children are minors and cannot yet hold accounts legally on their own. Their parents will be the account owner, but they will be the beneficiaries. And this is where we encourage the parents to either set up a standing order or to have the discipline to come in monthly and to deposit to these accounts, because these are for the children's education or to hand over to them as a starter gift, etc. So for that period, those are what we would recommend. When the children reach the age of majority, that is 18 onwards, then we would start to have them looking, as Neil said, depositing into all the gamut of accounts. Your first scheme, your second scheme, even your retirement accounts.
As much as early as 18.
As early as 18. So, because, Paul,
so you could actually relax at 15 interest and not be fighting up. All right, so, and of course more information at TTUTC.com. All right, or call 622
625 8648
or 8648. All right, Neil and Simone, thank you both for being. Always a pleasure talking. And once again, you can get more information at UTC's website or walk into any of their branches throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and their friendly and appreciative staff will be happy to sit with you and go through anything you want to know. We take a short break and come back with more. Stay with us.